Hi, welcome to Hunt and Gather with the Chatters. Today we are going bear hunting. Rifle season officially opens up tomorrow in a unit south of Williams, so we're pretty excited about that. This is the area that we have a little bit more experience. I've never gotten a bear. Aaron has gotten a bear in that unit before, but we've been doing a lot of scouting this season. We've already spent the last week checking water holes, looking for sign.
We found a few spots that have like more sign than we'd normally see in an average year, and of course it's still bear hunting, so it's going to take a lot of luck, but we'll see what happens.
You guys ready to go get something to eat?
Yep, let's do it. Alright, so this is going to be a little bit different than how our previous videos have been. Usually we show the hunt and the harvest of an animal. In this situation, we did not have the camera. And the reason why we didn't have the camera is we had a whole series of events that kind of just rolled into this awesome ending result. But in the meantime, we are missing some of the details. So we're going to go ahead and share it from my perspective, from Fern's perspective, and from Aaron's perspective. And hopefully you guys will be able to hear and experience the story just through our words. So ultimately, we have been hunting for about 2 weeks. And the one time that we chose to hunt separately was when everything went down. What started out was Fern and I went to one tank and Aaron went to another. When Fern and I got to our tank, we realized there was somebody already sitting on it. So we went ahead and walked back to the tank that Aaron was sitting on. When we got there, he was pleasantly surprised that we were there. No big deal. He decided that although he was originally hunting that tank for himself, he was going to go ahead and let me sit there and take dibs again, which was great. So we sat there all day long, had a few deer show up, but never did have a bear come in. Around 4 o'clock, me and Fern decided to wrap things up and walk over to the other blind and sit there for a little while if we had extra time, or go ahead and pull the blind.
And they did, but in the meantime there was about an hour and a half of daylight, and about 15 minutes before dark I had 2 bears come in. They looked like twins. I looked at them a long time, and I mean, they were both solid black. There was essentially no difference between them. I looked at them a long time to decide which one would be bigger, because I wanted to shoot the biggest one, or maybe one of them had funny coloration, but they were both solid black. But I finally made up my mind that the one further back was slightly bigger. And so I thought, that's the one I'm going to shoot. And about the time I started thinking that, they start moving off, and I waited too long. The bigger one actually was in the trees and there wasn't a shot. And it looked like the other one was going to do the same thing, because I think they started smelling me. They started kind of doing a fast walk, and I didn't want to take a walking shot. And luckily, right at the end, the one stops, and he's still in view, and he stands up on his haunches like this. And he actually pulls down this young sapling, and he's eating some acorns off of it. And I shoot him when he's standing up. And he does like a circus roll, and then he comes running right towards the blind. I thought he was going to come running through the blind, just because he was running that direction. But luckily, right towards the end, he turns when he's like 15 yards out, and he slowly walks through this opening, and I shoot, and I end up getting him, you know. And anyhow, I only had a little bit of daylight left, so I skinned him out real quick, and then I had a 1.5 mile hike to get to where the truck was going to be parked. And so I just wore the head and hide out like it was a big, heavy scarf. I was able to hike out my gun and the bear. He's decent, you know, he's medium size. Probably 175 pounds. But anyhow, we're going to put this hide on top of the truck and let it cool. And the meat's hanging in a tree right now. We're all going to go back as a family and get the meat. And pretty awesome. We'll have bear roast tomorrow. So super excited. All right. Anyways, I'll let Fern tell you the rest of the story.
Alright, so after we had left from the one tank that me and my mom were sitting, we drove up to where we had dropped off my dad, and we were probably only sitting there maybe a minute at most. We were just talking, and I hear this sound, and I roll down my window, and I can hear it's like some sort of person just talking or shouting or singing something. Eventually I realized that, we saw a light in the woods coming towards us, and eventually we realized, it has to be my dad. we saw that he was actually singing Jingle Bells. He came towards us and he had a bear draped around his shoulders, the fur. We had to, hurry up and walk back to the tank and butcher or quarter it, whatever you want to say, and hike it back out. We get all ready, we get our metal framed backpacks, and we just draped the bear fur over the top of the truck. Because my dad was covered in blood, we brought a gun and we sang Disney songs and Christmas carols the whole entire time. And so we get to the tank, my dad butchers it, and the whole time, I'm just shining my light through the trees, I'm singing songs, because you've got this fresh meat, that any bear would just want to eat, because, it's been really dry. They're going to want to take advantage of that meat, and they might not be as scared as you as they normally would be. Anyways, so we got all the meat into the backpacks, and I had the gun on my shoulders, and so probably about a third of the mile through the hike, my dad stops. He stops and he points at these two yellow eyes, and he's like, everybody get lights on that, because we all had lamps. And, you still can't see what type of animal it is, but all you can see are these yellow lights, and they just blink at you and turn. It's super, super freaky, because, you could tell it was a predator because it was low to the ground, the eyes were closer together, which means that they were probably in the front of the face. Anyways, we're singing, and we're, throwing rocks, not on it or anything, but just close to it, just to try to scare it off, and eventually it disappears, but just to be safe, we made like a quarter-mile detour around it. The only other animal we saw that night, but still kind of freaky, because of the whole predator experience. We think it was either a bear or a lion, but the other animal that we saw was an elk, and you could tell it was an elk because it was really tall, and its eyes were really far apart. Then we got back to the truck, and it's still scary to go back to the truck because you're thinking, there still could be something eating this bear fur because there's still blood and stuff. There wasn't anything, but we got back in the truck, and then we drove home and did that.
Okay, so we got back late last night, and now it's time to butcher the bear. And so we basically got it quartered out, so we got 4 legs, and then there's back straps, the meat off the back there, and then there's a lot of loose meat off the outside of the ribs, the neck, that kind of thing. So what I do is I take these big chunks, like one of the legs here, and you want to rinse off your meat good. What we're going to do today is we're going to cut this up into some roast, and then the rest we're going to chop up into grind. I found that a fillet knife, like you'd use for fish, is actually pretty handy sometimes for a lot of the stuff we're doing. There's 2 reasons we butcher our own meat. The first reason for me, honestly, is probably cost.
Not me.
If I took this bear to a butcher shop, they would do a good job. There's some good butcher shops here in the town we live in that they do a great job. And of course, it's a lot less work if you do that. But they'd probably charge $150 for a bear this size to butcher it. But then the other reason is it's a pride thing, right? Like every time you eat a meal out of this, you just have that pride in knowing that you not only did you harvest the animal yourself, but you did the butchering too. For you, that's probably the #1 reason you like to do it, huh?
No, the #1 reason for me is I want to make sure I'm getting my meat, and I want to make sure that it's handled well. Although there are some good butcher shops out there, I guarantee you they're not going to take as good a care of the meat as I am, because it's a ton of work. Cleaning all the hair off, cleaning the skin off, removing the fat, making sure that it stays cold. All of those things are hard for me to do sometimes. So if it's my job and I'm doing somebody else's meat and I'm throwing it into a giant grinder, I don't think I would take as much care. And I don't want to put a bad taste in anybody's mouth for butchers. But ultimately, I know that I'm going to do the best job because I'm doing it for myself.
Okay, so we got our bear all ground up and we got our roast in the freezer. So yeah, we got a bunch of bear grind here and some roast. And when I look at this wild game in this freezer, it reminds me of like you're watching TV or something, they show Fort Knox with all the gold bars. It just brings me that same sense of excitement. Like to me, these are gold bars. I love it. And especially since we were getting really low on wild game. I think we were down to one package of javelina. So this bear came just in time.
So we are getting ready to make some bear burgers. And we showed you how to process it. It's, you know, a lot more involved than what you probably just saw, but we do have another video that you can watch that's specifically on the processing piece. So I have about a pound of bear that's been ground. And I like to use breadcrumbs in any of my wild game burgers because it makes the burger stick together. Aaron likes to use an egg in addition to the breadcrumbs. I stick with just the breadcrumbs. I also like to use liquid smoke. It gives you that smoked flavor without all the work. And then Lowry's is a good one. And some black pepper. Once I've got all that in there, I just do a little mix. Really what I'm looking to do is add some flavor with my seasonings, and then the breadcrumbs, although they're Italian breadcrumbs, they don't have a ton of flavor. They're really there to help bring the meat together because with wild game it's not very fatty and so it wants to kind of fall apart. So here we go. I get a ball of meat about that big and shape it. Wild game does not shrink up like beef does. So about the size of the burger that you make is what you're going to get. This is bear, and so it's a little bit fattier, but we trimmed it really lean, so I'm not worried about it doing a lot of shrinking. And there's only 3 of us tonight. And let's be honest, Aaron is bigger than me and Fern. We're going to go ahead and steal a little bit of this meat from these burgers, so Aaron can have a little bit bigger one. That guy. Smash down. And so I'm gonna go ahead and flip them. And this may be the only flip I do, but I might choose to flip them one more time based on looking at the inside because we want to make sure we cook this really well. This is bear meat. If it has trichinosis, we are able to kill it completely. There's nothing that keeps you from eating bear that has trichinosis. You just have to make sure you cook it well enough. So flipped it. I'm going to clean my spatula to make sure that it's completely good to go for the next flip. And after I cook it on this side, probably for another 5 minutes, we'll check to see if it's done inside.
Let's eat!
Do us the honors. You were the one that got the bear.
Okay, so this is it's been 8 years since I had a bear burger, or a bear anything. And we spent about 20 days this year hunting and scouting. So there's a lot of effort into that guy. Let's see what happens. It's awesome. I think just knowing that it's bear makes it 10 times cooler. Because as far as flavor, it's like a lean ground beef.
Fern, you snuck a bite before I was able to get on you. I'm with you. It tastes a lot like beef.
Yeah, so I mean it's good, right? But then when you think about it being bear, it turns it from good to just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for getting a bear.
It's awesome, Dad.
Yeah.
We were on a meat drought, so this is great. And anyhow, hopefully we get another animal sometime soon, because this isn't going to hold us over for the year. So we'll see you next time when we go get something to eat.